Hello, James.
How's it going, Ender?
I mean, it's going. It's going a little bit at a time every day. We're back at it. We're going to be doing a little bit of video here. Took us a little bit to get started, but we're bringing video. And James, why are we bringing video? What happened? What happened overnight?
What happened to our night?
Or what happened overnight?
Overnight? I mean, a little bit. Within like the last couple of weeks, I guess our one of our videos decided to blow up out of nowhere, which has been it's been cool. Obviously, it's not like hundreds of thousands of views or anything like that, but for people that average 20 to 100 views, it's been kind of crazy.
Yeah, so we did, and even this podcast, I ran it as an audio special because we didn't want to lose it. But for when we were talking with the Escape from Tarkov, hackers, cheaters, whatever you want to call them, because our comment section was very heated, and going back and forth with that, which was kind of interesting, and it was kind of nice to have. I think you took it some of it a little bit more personal than I did. I thought it was kind of hilarious.
No, I do think it's funny. I think it's funny how people... Personal, I guess, is the wrong word. I find it funny that they're looking at us going, you're just promoting the hackers. I'm sure that our 23 subscribers are really all of a sudden...
74 subscribers.
Sorry, 74 subscribers.
44 of them came when it blew up.
But I do find it laughable because it's like, okay, are you on Landmark's video when he's interviewing hackers? Are you on Nick Merckx or Tim the Tatman's video saying these guys are glorifying cheaters? No, I'm not happy that they're cheating, but for people that don't, for someone like me, that yes, I know that there's cheaters, but I really don't understand all the like behind the scenes to it, how you even get into it and all that. I have zero interest of doing that, but to bring to light how easy it really is was disheartening to me in a way, but eye-opening. So I find it interesting where people think we're promoting that versus looking at it the same way I did, of like, oh wow, that's how they're doing it, or that's how it works. Like,
it's also like you gotta step back and think of, we're not journalists, but it's investigative news. It's like, I'm not going to piss off my source when I'm trying to understand the world around this.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna do that. The other thing I'm not gonna do is I'm not going to give anyone any real names out. Because one of the things was like you should drop their names. One, you can go back and see the video of us hacking and find their screen names.
No,
they don't care about that.
Them hacking.
Well, them hacking and find their screen names.
There.
Well, yeah, because we hack so bad that we continue to lose to other hackers.
I wish I was.
But I'm not going to give anyone's real name. So to let the people out there know who are saying you give out real names, the one name that I bleeped was a person that was not on the podcast, and it was their real name. So yes, I'm going to block that out for anyone that does not want their real name said in any social media for anything. Like, I'm going to do that. That is a moral thing from me that if you ask me to do, I'm going to do. I don't use my real name on here.
Yeah.
Like, as myself. So I don't have my real name here. So it's a choice that's made. So I'm going to keep that. Now, I use my image. You can see me. So if people are walking around, they're going to know. They can figure it out if they really wanted to. But if you ask me to do that and you ever come on to one of our podcasts or one of our streams, I've done it with friends where I've accidentally dropped their real name when we're playing live, and they're like, hey, can you go ahead and remove that or not have that in there? Yes, I'll go back and either delete the video or bleep the name out, because that's them asking me. So we're going to do that. And that's just the right thing to do as a human. And it's so funny that you brought that up, because I'm going to switch base into the first time James has ever given a good recommendation ever.
You were dogging on me in our last episode how you're never going to listen to my recommendations ever again.
No, it was not the last.
And wasn't it about PUBG, which is what we play all the time now?
PUBG on console. It was PUBG on console. You never said, because you guys were not playing on PC.
Correct.
I said I would play it on PC, So I downloaded it on console, and it was the worst experience ever. PC, different story when you decide to switch over. And others decide to switch over on PC. So I'm going to have to say I was right on that.
But it wasn't horrible. The game is what I recommended. How you play it is up to you.
The game, yeah, but you can't play the game the right way on PC. You can't on console. You
True,
can't.
yeah. I mean, you can't
It's
play
not
it
designed
your
around
way. I can play it my way.
Yeah, but
I'm bad on either place, so it doesn't matter.
Anyway.
So, but I've redeemed
that,
myself, according to you.
Yes. So your recommendation in the last podcast for Orville was phenomenal. And the funniest part about it is we just watched an episode about a society that does everything off of likes and dislikes. They wear little pin buttons.
That episode's so good.
That episode is so close to truth of the world we live in today. It's fucking scary. Like, my wife and I were looking at each other the whole time of like, we are not far from being this society where you literally walk up to somebody and say, I don't like you. And I'm going to press a up, literally like buttons on their
There's
shirts
there's an episode in the show called Black Mirror that's based on that same theory too, which is even more scary.
Dude, it was so fitting. And then it also fits directly into what I was just saying there. Of like, I'm not going to let you know somebody's name so you can go rip them apart and cancel culture of today. Like, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to feed that. You may not like it. You want to say it in the comments of our video? Fantastic. That's the place to do it. But I'm not going to give you the ability to try to ruin somebody else's life based off of not knowing anything about them. So just wanted to clear the air there. I don't agree with anything that they're doing. We don't agree with anything doing. There's a disclaimer in the front of the podcast that tells you
we don't agree.
We don't condone any of this, that our company does not condone any of this. But at the end of the day, we wanted to report on it because it was the biggest topic in Escape from Tarkov. And we proved it with it blowing up the way it is.
Yeah.
That is the biggest topic that people want to talk about. None of our other videos have anything on there. 50 views at max. But that one is at 1,900 views in the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Because the hacking has gotten so bad that there are that many people searching it on YouTube right now.
Yeah, to find out what's going on.
So anyway, wanted to clear the air there. I am happy that that's there. We don't even play the game anymore, so I don't know what we're going to do about it moving forward other than just keep answering to the comments and possibly flipping the name of the channel over to this and continue to post videos there. And if people don't like it, they can just leave. You know, they can choose what we want to do, but I don't know. So we haven't forgotten about you over there. We don't play the game anymore because of that issue.
Yeah,
it's so rampant, and it's
we've
just
played it a little bit,
anything.
but not enough to where it's like worth doing content.
No,
and really keep up with it.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel right saying I could make a podcast on it now that I'm not putting in, 15, 16, 17 hours a week to know what the game feels like and give any opinion on it. I can't right now. I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah, absolutely.
But some things that we can give opinions on and we can talk about is the gaming news that's out there today, because both of us have no other lives and it's just what we read and what we do. And first thing that was kind of there, GamesCon is going on, so you got a lot of new announcements, and we'll get to the announcements of GamesCon 2022 at the end. But Sony is launching a new controller, kind of for the first time really entering this space. I don't think they've done a high performance controller before. I don't remember them ever doing it.
The most I've ever seen, correct me if I'm wrong, is the back attachment that you could get on your PS4 Dual Shock, I guess they call it.
Yeah, I guess
would be the
you could do
closest
that.
thing. And we're not talking, obviously, for anyone listening, we understand that Scuff and other third-party companies, but Ender, what we're referring to is first-party stuff that Sony, just like the Microsoft Xbox Elite controller, where Sony is actually making their own controller.
I'm trying to see if I have the Xbox one sitting here. I don't actually.
Mine
surprised
mine
because
is right here next
you're
to me.
Elite. Okay, okay. So you have the Elite. I have the PlayStation sitting on my desk now. You have the Elite. So my personal opinion, out of all the controllers I've used, and I've got Scuff ones sitting over here. I've got the anniversary ones. I've used maybe 30 or 40 different controllers. That one you're holding there,
That's the Elite
the
2.
Xbox Elite 2, not the one, because the one was horrible. It broke all the time. The Xbox Elite 2 might be my all-time favorite controller ever, including all the stuff that Scuff's put out. So I'm interested to see how Sony is going to be able to do this, because I will say I hate the way this controller is shaped, the PlayStation controller. It doesn't fit in my hands well, but that's just me. Like, I can't really say, oh, it's a terrible controller because of that. That's just how it fits in my hand. But the haptic triggers and the adaptive triggers on the PlayStation are really cool.
Are really cool and gimmicky. Congratulations.
They are. They're super gimmicky, but it's fun. Like, it's fun when you're doing something in the game and they give resistance on the controller.
But
and
how
different things
long?
there.
How many games are going to keep supporting that?
Oh, I don't know. Every adventure game out there. Like, why wouldn't you?
I hope so. I mean,
every
they stopped supporting
everyone
the
should
Switch
do it.
feedback stuff. I mean, it always.
Now that's so I like that. I think it's fun, but the battery sucks. The battery is dead on this controller in like a couple hours.
Oh wow!
With all of the rumble and lights and everything going on that's inside of it, it doesn't have a good battery life. I keep it plugged in. And it's funny, I have it plugged into the Xbox charger because they both use USB-C. I just didn't unplug it. So now I did switch to that because I'm playing Spider-Man right now.
Okay.
And I felt like using the PlayStation controller would be easier than trying to use the Xbox controller and porting controls over, and they may not map, or I didn't know how that was going to work. So I plugged this one in. So I am interested to see if Sony nails this controller like Xbox did, because they're going to have the switches in the back. But if you look at how they're set up,
can I just talk about? Hold on, Ender. Can I?
Yeah.
I remember being excited. I've never owned a Scuff controller or anything, so I remember seeing the first Elite trailer, the first Xbox Elite controller trailer, and it was very detailed, and it showed all the pieces that come apart, similar to what Sony did, and it showed the back, and it showed this trailer that Sony put together. It's like a blind person put it together. I think the trailer is horrendous.
Terrible.
You can't really tell what you're getting.
No.
And then they don't even go into more detail on opening, because they revealed this with opening night live at GamesCon, and I was like, oh, really cool. That's it. Like, they're not going to talk about it. They're not going to show it. And the trailer doesn't do any justice to it. So I thought,
no.
I thought it was a waste.
The trailer's bad. But from reading the specs, you have removable thumbsticks, which I like because I prefer to play with a concave and a dome. So like those are the ways that I've always been playing. That I've always liked that. The rear buttons, but if you look at the Sony rear buttons, they're in some weird locations. And I don't really know if that's going to feel comfortable at all. You have multi-control profiles, which I do like. So if you like to change up what buttons are mapped to and things like that, you can have the profiles set up already in the controller. So you can swap between that. And then, you have the, I don't even know what they're calling them. The trigger buttons on the back, so you can shorten the pull for the trigger pull.
Just trigger stops.
Trigger stops. Okay, that's what they're calling them. So the trigger stops that are built in, which I'm wondering, do you still, if you have the trigger stops completely open, is that how you get the feedback, all the different feedback? If you move them, do you lose the feedback? Like, I don't know how that's going to work inside there. Because if you shorten them as short as the Xbox Elite, like I accidentally shoot all the time. Like it's a hair trigger at that point.
Yeah.
At best. And that's where I have it. The other thing that they didn't say they were going to have that the Elite has is when you pull the joystick caps off, you pull them up to replace them. there's a little screw inside of there that you can tighten down
to make
or release to make the resistance more or less, depending on the type of game you're playing.
And basically, you don't need those resistor rings that third-party places were selling. That
Yep, you don't need them anymore.
Xbox eliminated that.
Now, I will say, I still use those rings, plus tightened it down for shooters. That's just my own personal preference. That's there, but you do have it in there, which makes a huge difference. It also makes a huge difference on your dead zone. And if people don't know what dead zone and controllers are, your controller joysticks loosen over time. The more you play, they loosen up. So you could have your controller, which think is like it's drift, sitting in the middle, basically. Is drift. You think it's sitting in the middle, but it's really cocked to the left, and your controller, your guy on the screen, is moving. Now you can adjust that in software, but then it's the farther you have to move the controller to start an action as you increase your dead zone. So if you've had your controllers for a really long time, buy new ones, because they do run out, and the dead zone gets so big that it's almost unplayable. Now you don't have that problem unless you play the amount of games that we play. You're talking thousands of hours on the controller before you start noticing drift, and you got to be pretty hardcore to care. But if you're playing a first-person shooter, it makes a big difference.
It makes a huge difference.
And you can,
and some controllers, you can change that stuff. Like if you found the parts for the Elite, probably this new PlayStation, even the original controllers you can change. But at the end of the day, sometimes if you're not super handy and don't already have all the tools and know how to do it in a whim, it's just easier to buy a new controller. Yeah, by the time you get everything, you open it up, you change it, you hope you don't screw it up. You got to buy a new one anyway. But controllers do wear out. They don't last forever. And that's some of the ways that you can tell the difference. But anyway, Sony's coming out with their new thing. And this also launched, and it was kind of like going back to, I didn't bring this up, but they also launched their new headset that they have, and their monitor. The monitor I'm very interested in. I don't have the specs in front of me, but it's designed directly for the PlayStation, and the monitor will let the PlayStation take control of it and format it and get it all set up for you directly from the PlayStation, which I think is super cool because it's 4K 120 HDR, everything. It's also adaptive. Do you know the price? Did they reveal the cost?
I thought it was 800.
Are they going to keep it at 800 or are they raising it?
I don't know, and we'll move into that just next. In the US, we don't really have a problem.
Well, it's because they're afraid.
But it's like $800. So I am super interested for 4K 120 variable rate monitor. $800 is a very reasonable price.
Yeah,
and it looks pretty badass. Like it does look pretty cool. Anyway, moving off of that into the next topic that James brought up there.
With my stab, my Sony stab.
Sly, like Mr. Xbox with his, most people know what's behind you of all the green screen, but I think you just like being in a sea of green for Xbox. Like you're such a fanboy Xbox that you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna cover my room in this green so I can have it. That's what I'm gonna do. I think you just like sitting in the sea of green.
It works.
Black and green. Look, black shirt, Yoda, green all around you. Anyway.
I'll tell you what, if they made an Xbox Series X with Yoda head on it, I would have to buy one.
I think a lot of people. I think a lot of people would have to buy one. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can't say anything. I do have the Xbox fridge, the mini fridge.
I heard that thing is loud, by the way.
So there's two versions. There's two versions of it. There's one that I originally bought that only has on and off switch. And then they secretly launched a second model, but didn't tell anybody. And it's the same barcode too. So the only way you can tell is by opening the box up. And I went to Target and I opened up all of the Target. I just lost one of my lights. All right. It just went out on me. Okay. Thank you. It's like I give up.
So you were in Target and turned
opening all of the boxes, and you have to look at it and see that it has the switch for quiet. And in the quiet mode, it turns down the revs of the fan, but it keeps it just as cool.
That's funny.
So I do have it. I don't actually have it turned on. It's just a decoration in the office. But because I have a fridge like right outside my door, a giant one, so I don't really need it. But I thought it was cool. And when I turned it on, I mean that shit was like a spaceship going off. But back to topics that people actually care about. Sony has decided that inflation is a problem. Parts cost more, things cost more to make, and they need to raise the price of their consoles everywhere except for the United States market. James, I know you got an opinion on this, and I know it's not one where you're going to be defending Sony on their choice to raise their console price. So I'll let you take this away in the beginning.
My opinion's very, very point blank. It is, to me, it's very greedy by Sony. I think their fans are extremely naive. I talked about this on the Parents First Gaming podcast. I think it's funny that when Xbox tried to raise simple price raise of Xbox Live Gold, which is minuscule compared to raising the price of hardware, Xbox fans lost their absolute mind. Within 48 hours, Xbox reversed course and then opened up that you don't even need Live Gold to play free-to-play games anymore. So the fact that you've got Sony fans on Twitter just defending this, I think is a joke. It's so anti-consumer. I think it's stupid. I already don't like. They're not the first one to do this. Here's what a lot of people are letting slide by. The Oculus Quest 2 has been out for 2 or 3 years now, and they are raising their console by $100. And everyone kind of thought that it was a joke at the time, and now Sony's doing it, and they're completely over. So it's like Facebook's just laughing in the background. But raising the price of consoles, I think is to me it's ridiculous. If you want to charge something a little bit more expensive, make a PS5 Slim, make a PS5 that comes with different face. I don't know, anything. I don't care what you do to it. Do something to it. Do something to a new model to re-release it, and you have the old one that whatever's on the shelf just goes, but anything going forward is going to made with it. Just something. I don't care if it's a skin on there. Do something to it. But to just raise the price in the other markets and then specifically say we're not going to raise it in the U.S., I don't know if it's hardships. Some people are alluding to the fact that's where Xbox competes the most, so they don't want to lose out on that, which I don't know if I'm going to fall into that rumor mill of it. But I think the whole thing is an absolute, it's a sham. It's disrespectful, and I find it laughable that Sony fans are they're okay with it and not losing their mind.
Sony fans are interesting because they will find a way to defend Sony on every single decision that they make, regardless of what that decision is. And they will turn around and shun other companies for making the same decision. I'm sure you can go out there and when Meta was raising the Quest 2 $100, I'm sure there's tons of Sony fans that were out there like, oh my God, how could you be doing this? That's terrible. And there's no thing here, and they're talking, and then all of a sudden it's just like, yeah, well, I get it. And it's another one of the things is like, maybe we only are listening to Sony fans in the US. It's not really affecting me, so I don't really care. But it's a large raise. Like in the UK, it's what, 30 euros. Japan, I don't even want to get into how much yen it is. But even in like Canada, which is the closest for us, they're raising it $20. Like 20 Canadian dollars that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
Especially when you're in a global recession and crazy inflation across the entire world right now with COVID. I get parts are scarce. I get all of those things because you can't buy a PlayStation. So now it's like everyone on these waiting lists that are trying to get them are trying to buy them at a price. And then this just makes the scalpers able to raise all of their prices again, all over the place as they force people to buy them through them because they're buying them up through every store and everything at that place. But I think the real problem here is not a console war. I think it's the fact that Sony has not been able to recover the money they put into trying to do their cloud gaming subscription service, which is terrible. And I have it. I pay for it. It's terrible. All the games I've wanted to play so far, I've had to buy because they're not there. and they're never going to come unless I want to play a trial. And they have to build that infrastructure before anyone comes to it. So all that hosting, all those fees are just piling up every second on them. And they're trying to find ways to recuperate that money rather than kind of like, and I have to go back to like,
this is
Xbox
already
has done this.
Listen,
Xbox has done this years ago. They've raised their console prices and things like that. But ever since they got the new regime in there, they've listened to people around there, and like when they've tried to raise things and everyone ballistic, they're like, okay, we're going back. But you have to understand, when you build a digital platform, you lose money for a long time. When Amazon built AWS, and you can go read the history in the articles, it lost money for a long time. Now it's one of their most profitable segments out there.
Netflix lost money.
Netflix lost money. Microsoft, when they went to Azure and built the cloud, when they moved Microsoft Office from desktop buying physical CDs to the subscription service they have now, they lost money in the beginning, but they knew it was the right thing to do. They didn't go out and raise the prices of all their other products to redeem it. They just knew they were going to take a loss. Yeah, your shareholders aren't happy for a little bit, but you have to be able to explain to them, we're going to win in the long run from this vision. I don't think Sony has a vision. I think I agree with you 100%. It's greed taking over, and I'm going to make a better profit today. And what I'm going to be able to say is at the end of the year, I made more money than Xbox did in console sales.
Congrats. Yeah.
Congrats. You won the game no one's playing.
Yeah. It does feel like I like, again, this is something I said on the other podcast. It feels like Sony is playing the console war game, but no one else is playing it anymore. Microsoft clearly has just thrown in the towel on trying to beat Sony in console sales. They know that they can't do it. Sony's going to win the console war. There is no more console war. It's content war. And for every 8 or 9 or 10 out of 10 that Sony puts out, congratulations, they're phenomenal games. And they're some of the best single-player games that are out there. But for every one of those, Microsoft is putting out 5, 6, or 7s. And they're still making money. And
Agreed.
And I know that, so Microsoft's winning the content. Now, in between those 6 and 7s, Microsoft is also putting out 9s and 10s. Maybe not the exact same game that they want, but does, Sony kills it in these third-person action-adventure games. God of War, Last of Us, for the top 2. Does Microsoft
Spider-Man? Spider-Man's got to be in there.
Does Microsoft really need I don't know. Maybe they're not going into that genre because they know that they can't compete, right? So they're a first-person genre, and they kill at that, but they also kill at Forza. Forza is a 10 out of 10. They've got other games that do pop out. They've got Bethesda games they're going to start cranking out pretty soon. So, but again, it's way more content. It's just that when a Sony exclusive comes out, it's a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10, but the stupid thing takes 6-7 years to make. Or they're repurposing Last of Us for the 5th time or whatever, getting ready to come out. They're like the GTA 5 of PlayStation. It's ridiculous, but people are still going to buy it. If it comes to PC, I'm going to buy it. I've never got to play through the game, and I'm excited when it comes to PC. But the Sony as a company is not looking at what their games are doing and investing. It just seems like they're just hell-bent on winning this console war that they've already won. Everyone's thrown in the towel. No one's trying to compete with them.
Yeah, it's a little greedy, and it doesn't fit with where it feels like the gaming industry is going. And we'll leave it at that, and we'll move on because I'm sure we'll have other stuff that comes up from there. So moving into, again, exclusives that you bring up, there's an exclusive that's Sony exclusive that is now going to be a PC Game Pass game.
It's already on there.
It's already on there. Which game is that, James? Which game is that?
It's the best one. It is hands down the best one because it's Death Stranding. Now, I know a lot of people may not like Death Stranding. They may not have got into it. For all intents and purposes, you are a mailman. I can't stress that enough. It's got some horror elements to it. It's Kojima. But what's funny to me is again, I'm all for all Xbox games being able to be played on PC. I wish that my friends that have only had a PlayStation could play through the Halo campaigns. I think they would love them. I am not sitting here as a Microsoft fan saying, oh, it would be ridiculous for Halo to be on PlayStation. Why? More people can play. But the fact that the flagship, the almighty savior of PlayStation when it comes to game developers, Hideo Kojima's game, the first one that Sony paid for, gave the engine from Guerrilla Games, the Decima engine, I think is what it's called, with the Horizon Zero Dawn is made out of, given to Hideo Kojima to make this game. Thanks to 505 and Kojima keeping his own rights to everything, they can do whatever they want with it. And they decided to put it on Game Pass. Which, besides the fact that it's hilarious to me, I do think it's great. I think it's great that more people can play this game. Now, what's even funny is if you've never played Death Stranding, it's all about community and bringing things together and connecting everything. So it is kind of funny how this game seems to almost start to bridge the gap a little bit.
So, but here's where, going back to our last topic on where we think just Sony is out of it in general, here's where we are proving that point. So Kojima Productions and 505 Games are seeing the future of, we need our game to be played more. And the only way we can do that is by getting it out there. And the best way to get it out there right now is Game Pass. Mm-hmm. And specifically PC Game Pass, because let's face it, that hits more worldwide, and you're not constrained with the consoles and all the other stuff. Like they're not fighting a console war here. They're not like, hey, we want to go over to that. We just want people to play our game because we want to make another game. And then we want to make another game. So we need you to play. We need players involved. And it's like, go back and look at the mistakes that games like World of Warcraft made when they had 10 million people playing, down to, I think now, like concurrent, it's in the hundreds of thousands. It's not even in the millions anymore. Like, listen to what people are going and follow the games in the right direction. And this is just proving again that Sony is not listening to where the gaming community is, unless they have something up their sleeve, unless they are building the greatest thing since sliced bread that we don't know about, which in this day and age doesn't exist because there's leaks, rumors, and everything out there.
Their only hidden thing still to reveal is the VR2.
They're just hurting themselves. And I 100% agree with more people playing your game is better. I think you can always figure out how to distribute the money in a way that everyone is happy. You can make those deals, but you got to be willing to say, I have to get my game out there. I have to get people to play it. And these studios don't want to be stuck behind these giant corporations not getting their games in people's hands. Because if they broke out on their own and they were still the small studios that they used to be, they'd be putting it on every single store they could possibly put it on. That's what they would be doing. And these guys were smart enough to keep their rights, and they're like, you know what? We're done with this shit. We're putting it out there for people to play. And they're going to get a huge influx of people playing, which is probably going to fund the next game. That's where it is.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, speaking of games coming out, we could talk a little bit about GamesCon.
Well, we got one more thing with Sony.
Oh.
I want to go into, and it comes back to Creed, really. At the end of the day,
you're telling me that they still don't have any good news?
They had one good news in their controller coming out, and I think their monitor coming
subjective.
out. And that's subjective at best, but I like to see them getting in the market and attempting something like that. That competition always breeds better products. So if they're willing to jump in there and try to make a premium controller, by all means, go do it, and let's get some competition, because I'm sure somebody's going to take some technology they put in that controller and make it better the next one and the next one. If you're not trying to push, you're not going to get any news. But in the UK, Sony PlayStation faces a lawsuit that is just just a small bit of money, James. Just a tiny bit of money that they're being sued for.
No, I'm not
you
too
know,
familiar with the story, so get me up to date here.
So basically, remember back when we were talking about Epic Games suing Apple for the amount of money that they were charging, and that they weren't able for competition and things like that.
Okay.
And then Epic decided to get around that by having their own way of purchasing the game and doing all the crazy stuff in game. Well, basically, there's a class action lawsuit that Sony's being sued for $5 billion by 9 million complaints in the UK of, and these are the words quoted in the Sky News report by Megan Barnes, ripping people off. So basically, Sony has been charging people a 30% commission on every digital game and in-game purchase made in the Sony Play Store. That's exactly what Apple was doing. And they were making it to where the only way that you could purchase a game was through that, on that 30%. And in order to hit the profit margins that the game needed, they had to raise their price. It's been going on for 6 years now. There's now a lawsuit that's going to be tried in the UK that since August 19th of 2016, they have been overcharging people and ripping them off for digital content at their 30%.
Now, what's the odds this actually goes through, though? That's the thing that, I mean, I know article is blowing up, but I have heard whispers. Like I said, I don't know the details about everything, but have heard people say, some of the gaming influencers like Destin Legary, IGN, and people like that have said that this seems to be very unlikely to actually go anywhere.
I agree with them, but I also didn't think that Epic was going to be able to get money out of Apple. So do I think they will get the whole kit and caboodle $5 billion? No. But do I think there's going to be some changes in how Sony does their commissions on their game store? Absolutely. Because that's what happened with Apple and Epic. And no one thought Epic could take them at that point. Now, this is a class action suit. So it's the people suing a company. So it's just a bunch of people together to try to get their money back over the course of time. Class action suits, it's hard to prove. You know what I mean? And the company normally settles super fast, and like everyone will get $1. You know, like that's how like a lot of these class action lawsuits, you know, it's the guy on the back of the van following the.
So the only person making money off of this
pileup
is the law firm that's representing all these people.
Normally the law firm doesn't necessarily make money off of it, but their name is wrapped up with Sony, which gets them more business at that point. But I actually think, since this is going under the Consumer Rights Act of 2015, they do have some ground to stand on in the UK. Like, I don't know UK law that well, so I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, this or that. Like, I could talk about the one in the US with Apple and Epic because I understood that law better. The UK has some really funky laws when it comes to digital content, the internet in general, and all the other stuff that they do. So it's very interesting there. And the EU is always every company's like bane of existence if you're online, because they have a lot of rules, and it always comes down to like how much taxes are they going to actually get from it. But anyway, long story short, we have 4 articles on Sony that don't look too good. Like just in controversy over and over and over again.
I mean, constant layups for Microsoft to look like the greatest PR. I mean, the PR side of Microsoft right now does not have to work very hard.
Well, so I do have to bring up that Xbox had this same issue with their Game Pass in the EU earlier this year. So it wasn't this big of a lawsuit, but they did have it reviewed by the Consumer Rights Commission. We actually talked about it on the podcast there. So Xbox isn't getting away with anything there. They were under review. It's still under review. Like, we don't know what the outcome of that was. So that just tells you how long these things take. Like, we may be talking about this next year on what the actual outcome is.
Yeah.
But it's a lawsuit. We should bring it up. Who knows? Maybe it'll come to the US and that lawsuit will sit there. We don't know. It's the start. And that's the end of the Sony bashing. Like that's all I got. Now I will say on Sony's behalf, the PlayStation 5 is fantastic. Like I love it. It's great hardware. But I'm playing their #1 game, Spider-Man, on the PC. So that's interesting.
Hey, I just played through Spider-Man on Steam Deck. It was amazing. I loved it.
I mean, it's just so funny. Like we say that. Like I have my computer sitting here, my PlayStation next to me, my Xbox behind me, and you know one thing I don't really give a shit. I don't care which one I play on. I just want to play the game.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter to me. I wish I didn't have to buy all of them to play all the games. And I'm like, that's what we want. We just want one place to play all the games. And it was brought up in your podcast right before this, Parents First Gaming. Sony's also looking to make their own launcher for the PC games. So now we have to download games from another place, but at least it'll be on PC. And I know so many people are like PC hardcore people are going to go nuts.
They're going to lose their
there's
mind.
another launcher. Like just having Steam and Epic is too much for them.
It cracks me up. It honestly doesn't bother me, but it is funny. But I don't. If Sony is greedy, and if you don't want to give money to Steam or to Epic, you gotta
create your own launcher.
You gotta create your own launcher.
It's not like Xbox doesn't have their own launcher. They do.
I mean, it's just PC.
So
it's the PC Game Pass.
But it's still theirs, and you could buy the games through them.
Correct.
In order to do it. So like Xbox is doing the same thing. Sony's going to come out with theirs. You have Steam that's there. Then you have Epic Games, and then you have like.
But will they release them on their own launcher and Steam like Xbox does, or will they keep them exclusive to their launcher?
I don't know. I mean, Halo is only on Xbox, so I think they're exclusive.
No, Halo's on Steam.
The multiplayer, I didn't think the campaign was.
I believe everything is on Steam. I could be
okay.
wrong.
Then that might be true. I don't know. I just did it through Xbox because Game Pass had it for free. So
yeah,
why
know
not
exactly.
go through there?
Yeah, 100%.
But then you have like Blizzard's launcher that's out there. You've got Escape from Tarkov that has their own launcher that they use. So like, I mean, it's all over the place. That's the beauty of PC is you can do whatever the hell you want.
Exactly.
You don't really have to play by anybody else's rules.
I find it funny when you get exclusive games on PC launch platforms, and the PC crowd loses their mind because you can still play it on your system. And they'll say that's worse than like console exclusive. I'm like, no, because if the game is on PlayStation, I cannot play it on my Xbox.
Yeah, but here's the funny thing.
It's not like I can just go to the PlayStation store on my Xbox and download the PlayStation game.
Well, they go nuts with it, but like I just have a shortcut to the game on my desktop, and the launcher opens in the background. Like I don't ever go into the launcher except to purchase and download. After that, I just click the icon for the game I want to play, and it launches.
And then like, I just fact checked it for us. The entire Halo series and campaigns are all available on Steam, including like Halo Wars and things like that. Halo Master Chief Collection, Halo Infinite campaign. Yeah.
Let's get the Game Pass and you'll be paying a whole lot less for all of it.
Correct. Yes, that's what I would do, but it is there.
There you go. So it's there. Anyway, moving forward, GamesCon. Big event. Big event. Kind of a big deal.
Gamescom is the first real big event that was finally back in person since COVID, actually.
Yeah.
It's in Germany for those that don't know.
Yeah, it was Germany this year. Is it always?
No, it's always Gamescom is Germany's showcase. Yeah. So,
okay.
The best part about Gamescom is Jeff Keighley, who runs the Video Game Awards, does an opening night live He's done them virtually the last couple of years, obviously, but this one finally in person. It was great. They show a lot of world premiere trailers. He does his thing. They even gave away some Gamescom awards, Ender, to different, best of show,
Did we win?
things like that.
Did we win
did
best
not.
podcast?
We did not win anything. I
Shit.
don't even know if we were nominated.
I don't know why we wouldn't be.
Probably because we were promoting hackers. But they did. Xbox obviously has their showcase. Sony opting to skip this year. Xbox's showcase for
what
anyone
do they have
that
to showcase?
I don't know.
They don't have any consoles that they can show.
Xbox only they did a 6-hour stream, and it was a deep dive into previously announced games. So no world premieres for first party Xbox on this. Some good stuff if you're a Sea of Thieves fan. Some other things. They did a deep dive into High on Life, which is a new first-person shooter written by the people from Rick and Morty, which I think is good. I'm just going to give a list of some games that were revealed at Gamescom. You got a new trailer for Sonic Frontiers, looked really good. Dead Island 2, 8-year hiatus, 2 different development teams, is finally releasing. They showed a trailer. It didn't look like it was last gen. It looked pretty fun. If you're into the zombie kind of world, Dead Island, if you're not familiar with it, is a little lighter, arcadey, I would say, take on it, similar to Dead Rising, something like that. It's not super in-depth. It's not all like doom and gloom, and you got to go, get your resources and all that. So it's a little bit different, but it's a lot of fun. Based in the LA area with some former devs from GTA 5, so I think they've got that under wraps. Gotham Knights got a new trailer and finally a release date. October 21st is when that's going to come. And are you excited about Gotham Knights at all? I know it's going to have some co-op gameplay. I feel like that's a game you and I can get into, especially since we're into this superhero kick.
I think it'll be cool. I'm kind of really happy that it's going to have, again, I mean, everybody loves Harley Quinn, but I'm actually really happy that it has Clayface.
Yeah.
I think he's one villain that does not get enough in the DC world, where he's a fantastic villain in there. So Clayface being part of it is going to be pretty cool. I think they also said Mr. Freeze, the Penguin, and the Court of Owls.
The Court of Owls is supposedly the main thing. Now, here's my biggest question for you. It's called Gotham Knights, and it's got Batgirl. Who are the 4 playable characters? You've got Batgirl, Nightwing, Robin, and
Batman.
No, that's going to be my question. No, there is no. Supposedly Batman is
Batman.
Dead. This is after Batman. Who's
Gotcha.
with the guns?
You're losing me there. I don't know.
I can't remember the hero. So anyone watching this, I apologize to all my DC fans out there. But my question to you is, do we get to the end of the main campaign? And do we find Batman, or do you think this world that's supposed to keep going after the main campaign, they're going to add stuff to it from what I've heard, does this evolve and Batman comes back, or are we literally going to stay in a Gotham world that Batman really is gone?
I just can't imagine making multiple games like this with no Batman. I'm going to play it, because I just think the game itself looks cool. I love co-op games. We don't have enough of them. So just having co-op campaign games, we don't have enough. So that makes it fun right there. But it'd be like I'm going to make a Avengers game and I'm just going to leave out Iron Man. He's just not going to be there. We're not going to have Iron Man ever again, and he's just gone.
Wait, well, the only reason that didn't happen is because Sony didn't own the rights to Iron Man. Otherwise, that would be an Avengers game without.
True, but I'm just saying, that's how I imagine it. That's the character of the universe. And are they really trying to push all the other ones and say they're bigger characters than Batman is? No, they're not. I think they'll fail if they don't find a way to bring him back into the universe, because I can give you one game in Gotham. I can't give you 2 if he's not there. Because that's what every kid wants to play.
Would you be okay with him being an NPC?
No, I want to be Batman. He is my superhero of superheroes. Batman is the man. You want to know why? Because he's not a superhero. He's a regular ass dude. Because he's Batman. You know what? He's a rich dude that got bored and said, "You know what? I'm going to make gadgets and beat people up."
So we are both. So we can't. There'll be no bets here. We're both on the same side that Batman is going to end up alive at some point in this game.
I mean, he has to. Again, it's like removing Superman or removing all the other ones. Like they always come back.
All right, so let me jump into a few other games that were revealed for Spoken. There's a new game called Where Winds Meet. It's kind of previewed as a Ghost of Tsushima and medieval China. There's a Lies of P, which looks pretty good. It's going to be on Game Pass. Subnautica developers making a new game called Moonbreaker. It's a Warhammer-like strategy game.
This is interesting to me because I would not think the devs from Subnautica were going to be making a Warhammer-like game. Because Subnautica does not get
It's a digital tabletop strategy game that has a universe that's been co-created with Mistborn and Wheel of Time novelist Brandon Sanderson. So it's not a Warhammer game. It's a Warhammer-like strategy game.
That's what I'm saying is I just don't see
and early access on September 29th. Yeah. Telltale fans, new Tales from the Borderlands is finally announced. If you like Telltale games and the Borderlands game that they made, they also announced another game called it's The Expanse. So if you liked the TV show The Expanse, Telltale's making a game on that. There is a Warhammer 40,000. Darktide is the shooter, 40K. So Warhammer 40,000 Darktide, it looks like it's going to be out there. Return to Monkey Island. It's a PC release only, but that's coming on actually Switch and PC September 19th for those that adventure games. The Plague's Tale. If you've never played, you want a cool action adventure game, third person, go to Game Pass. Plague's Tale is great, and the sequel, Plague Tale Requiem, is coming out October 18th.
Dude, the graphics of this look insane.
They look so good, and even the original one is great. Something I want to jump in to ask you a little bit, Ender. I know you don't know a lot about this IP that they're using, but you're a huge MMO fan. Dune announcing Dune Awakening, a new open world survival MMO. If you want to check out the trailer, it is just a teaser. It shows kind of a guy overlooking some things. But any thoughts on this? Or
when you get into the MMO world and it's open world survival MMO, I just don't know what it compares to. And I'm not sure what to expect here, but I think the Dune universe is pretty cool. And, giant spice harvesting vehicles with giant sandworms and sandworm riding. I'm going to do it just to see what the sandworm riding looks like. That looks like it's going to be fun, but I don't have a lot of faith in MMOs anymore because of how quickly the gaming community moves from one game to the other. You really need a good community around the game to make MMOs worthwhile.
Yeah.
Now I don't know if this is going to be if it's going to require a lot of interaction with other players. If this is something where you interact with them every once in a while, if it requires you to have a group of players playing it in order to progress in the game, I think it's going to fail because you just don't get enough people playing them. Everyone moves on to the next hot game and they're all left with not enough player base to make the game fun.
Yeah. All right.
That's the MMO. That's the MMO world right now.
All right, so two more games I want to highlight from GamesCom, and we'll leave this. The first one is the Callisto Protocol. Now, for those that might be listening that play PUBG and wonder about this first-person PUBG campaign that was going to tie in, yada, 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 made by some Dead Space developers, this is it, Callisto Protocol. Now, as far as its PUBG tie-in relation, they've completely broken away. It does not fit in the universe at all. If you are a fan of Dead Space games, it looks very similar, except the gore and the action sequences and the mutation mechanics. Like, this game looks absolutely terrifying, Ender, with like next gen graphics. Just, I mean, I think they're gonna kill it. I think this game could be anywhere from an 8, 9, or 10 out of 10 when it releases. I would say if it really picks up, you could be looking at some competition for God of War for maybe Game of the Year. That's going to be my call out there. But a game I know you're excited about, because I know you're not big into the horror genre. Hogwarts Legacy had a new trailer where they show off Slytherin, dark magic, and zombies.
So that's the zombies not as much like okay. I don't know if I really care that much about the whole zombie piece, but this is actually a big thing that's been going around. So they announced Hogwarts Legacy, and it doesn't have anything to do with the J.K. Rowling stuff. So like,
yeah, this is like 1,000 years before or something.
It's 1,000 years before, and none of this has happened. So people are really up in arms about how this might ruin the storyline and everything that's going on. But the other piece there is they didn't have any trailer showing the dark arts. Like, you were learning in school and no one knew if you're going to be able to use the dark arts. In this trailer, it shows you learning the dark arts and you're able to use some of the unforgivable curses. So,
I mean, to me, Ender, though, if you're into the lore of, correct me if I'm wrong, and I know you're probably more into the Harry Potter lore than I am, but for a school at Hogwarts and all that to ban the use of dark, like, something had to have happened in the past to get, so at one point they were able to use this stuff, right?
So they don't ban the dark arts. So they have an instructor on the dark arts. So you learn how to counter the dark arts. But there are unforgivable curses that no one is allowed to use in their society. So it's the killing curse that was used on Harry. So the reason he has the scar. There's the Crucio. I can't think of all of them. So one, basically you torture the person. The other one, you take over mind control of them. So there's ones that you just aren't supposed to use. They're unforgivable. And if you use them, you go straight to Azkaban. Like, you don't get any question if you use them. The game was very questionable on if you were going to be able to use them, because a lot of character development around, are you in Slytherin? Are you in Ravenclaw? Are you in Gryffindor? Where you land, Hufflepuff, decides what type of person you're going to be. So if you decide to play as a Slytherin and you can't use the dark arts, well, that doesn't really fit with the character model of what you're trying to be there.
Correct.
So for them to have it, for you to be able to use it, I think just brings the universe all the way around. It's not limiting you, because even in the Harry Potter movies, Harry had to use an unforgivable curse a couple of times in order. He had to use the mind control curse a couple of times to be able to get where he needed and what he needed to do. So that just lets you bring it full circle. That means that the developers are really into the lore of the universe that J.K. Rowling's made, and they're not going to change it that much. Now, I'm super interested in just the storyline, what you get to do. The Harry Potter games have been terrible in the past.
There was only one good one. It's called Lego Harry Potter.
The Lego Harry Potter was the best one. So, like, I mean, in this one, it just feels like they've taken a lot of time. They built the game, and since it's not stuck in the book series, they have the liberty to do whatever they want in magic. So you start to get, as a fan, a look at, like, what did it look like before? What is this storyline without following Harry and Hermione and Ron? Like, what's everybody else doing? And you get to become a wizard and go through it yourself. I mean, as a kid, and a lot of people are like, you know, I'm 36 years old, and people are probably like, why the hell do you give a shit about Harry Potter? I was 8 when the first book came out. Like, I was that kid in line buying the book to read it and reading all the books before any of the movies came out any of that stuff. So it's like this has been ingrained in me for a super long time.
Yeah.
So to have somebody come out and actually put time into a game that's going to go into the legacy, I'm all for it. I hope it's awesome. It'll when it comes out, that's what I'll be playing. Like I will be. It's February something, I think is what it is. I'll be pre-ordering it. I believe that's the date that they just gave. It was supposed to be in Christmas. They ended up pushing it back. If you know anything about Harry Potter, it always launches at Christmas. It was a Christmas movie.
Yep.
So anyway, super excited about that. I hope it hits home.
Yeah, I'm excited. You know, I'm not the biggest Harry Potter fan. I like all the movies. I didn't read the books, but I'm excited. I hope for people that are big fans like you that this turns out.
And
to be a big
I
hit.
think since the game has nothing to do with it, anyone that didn't read the books or see the movies, it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah.
They're gonna have to teach you it through the game anyway, and it could all be different. This is 1,000 years beforehand.
Yeah. It could be a good launching point for people that never got into Harry Potter, and the next thing you know, they're watching all the movies. And now, if you do play this game, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think I like Harry Potter, I want to give a fair warning to anyone that's older. The first 2 or 3 movies are very, very kid-like. But remember, just like the books, from what I understand, correct me if I'm wrong, this series grew with the audience that grew up with it. So as you get to the later movies, they get very adult very quick.
So I have a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. I will let my 6-year-old watch the first movie. That's it. Outside of that, I think once you get into the second movie, it gets a little bit rougher. I think she could probably watch it if she wanted to. My 4-year-old, I wouldn't let him watch them. But I was 8 when I read the first book. She wrote the first book as a children's book, really with no thought of making the entire series. She didn't come up with that she was going to make the whole series until after the first book came out. That's why the first story and all the ones after that feel a little bit disjointed. Because then she started building all them. But once you get to, you know, the sorcerer, so you start with the Sorcerer's Stone. Once you get into like the Goblet of Fire, the Order of the Phoenix, and those, like, they are adult films at that point.
Yeah.
And they are not, especially the last book. Like, that's a rough book. The movies, because the last one is between 2 different movies, are fantastic. But the book builds the world even better. And I'm not that person that's like always going to say, oh, the book is better. The movies are great for what they are. Don't go read the books. Like, watch the movies. I don't care. The movies do a fantastic job of telling the story in their own right. But if you want a little more detail to the world, a little more investment in the other characters than just the main characters, the books have that because they're allowed to do it. Like, a movie can only be so long.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I really want them to do is to turn Harry Potter into a TV series and have someone go back and retell.
You better get Amazon or Netflix
the movies. Yeah. All the movies as a TV series, because again, these movies started coming out when TV series really weren't the big deal. Movies were still the hot topic of the way to tell a story. Could you imagine, like, you've seen all the movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine
all the new ones?
Can you imagine 10 hours to tell those stories?
That'd be great.
And how much better that they could be, or worse. Like, look at Game of Thrones ending. Like, having more time doesn't mean you're going to do great.
Listen, I always say, I'll be the first to say this. Once a TV series or something goes past 2 seasons, you are essentially joking yourself if you think they're going to be able to wrap it up in 160-minute episode and you're going to be satisfied. It's just not. You've got to, in my opinion, you need a
closing season.
Yeah, but you just got to accept the fact that you were there for the journey. I love Game of Thrones. Do I think the endings kind of suck and it's weak? Yeah, whatever. But I still love all that stuff leading up to it.
Well, George R.R. Martin killed the ending because he didn't know what the hell was going to go on, so they just had to figure it out on their own.
He was busy. He was helping putting his name on Elden Ring.
Yeah, but anyway, I think I agree with you. I'm not one of the ones that's on the bandwagon of saying, hey, go rewrite Game of Thrones and do a whole new season. Like, you got what you got. They did the best they could. Did they close up all the story arcs? No. But do any shows really
never. That's what I'm
close
saying.
all
Never.
their story arcs?
Never. I
Like,
mean,
they
I'm
don't.
a big. I don't know if you watched it. How I Met Your Mother. How I Met Your Mother is a good example. The entire final season is a wedding. Every episode, they're at the wedding, and people hated it. So it's like there was a show that tried to wrap up their whole show with one. Instead of doing what that final episode is the final episode, they did the final episode as an entire season. And that didn't work either. And that was right before Game of Thrones kind of did their thing. So
Yeah, Game of Thrones.
Lost is another one. Lost had a redundant.
Oh God, Lost. They just.
Well, what's funny?
Lost also had to deal with the writer's strike.
Well, it's not even that. Well, yes, the writer's strike. But if you get a chance, you ever want to watch something cool, look it up on YouTube or whatever. It's this like docu-series with Damon Lindelof, who kind of goes into the whole thing. And when they wrote Lost, it was 2 seasons. That's it. Him and J.J. Abrams, and he went through the whole thing. And beginning to end, it would have been amazing. 2 seasons, people would have wanted more, but it would have been amazing. And CBS or whoever, ABC or whatever, changed their contract, offered them more money, and made them stretch it out. And he literally admitted, he goes, there was times in the 2nd and 3rd season where we were just making stuff up the week before. We had no idea what to do because none of this existed.
Do you really think a polar bear needed to be there?
They didn't know. That's what I'm saying. They're just making stuff up. He goes, we put stuff in that show just to see if people would be excited about it.
But it created a phenomenon of like, what does it mean?
Yeah.
And I think that was the best part about that show is that they were able to take such liberty because the premise of the show gave them that liberty, because you knew nothing. They're on a plane. It crashes. I don't know any of the characters. I can just make it up as I go along. Like, they could make up anything.
Yeah, the tail section, he said, was not a part of their plan at all.
No.
He said it was dumb. So I kind of those are shows that it's like it would have been cool to see their actual vision, but that's what happens when executives get involved and they're making decisions that don't know what they're talking about. You
make decisions based off of money and not creative control.
Correct.
Like, it's all about like, how can I prolong this series and go ahead and put that on there? But I think what we didn't have and what they didn't have then that we have now, which I think stops some of those bad decisions, and you know, so it still happens sometimes with like Game of Thrones, but you still have the streaming services and easier syndication. Like, when that show first came out, like, you had to get into syndication. Like, if you want to continue to make money with your show, that was the only way you're going to do it. Your DVD sales, like, remember going and buying the DVDs? That was about all you could do.
Yeah, I have the first 4 seasons of Lost on DVD.
I have the entire Seinfeld DVD series, like, because that's how you had to go do that. And now you can take a series and put it on your streaming service and people can still watch it. You still get the ad revenue. You still get all the other stuff. You still get the service. So I think you're going to start seeing more of like Netflix does, the limited series where they know they're only going to be 10 episodes long, 12 episodes long. That's all we're going to do. This is a short story we want to tell you, but we need more. We need longer than an hour and 40 minutes because that's, let's face it, anything over an hour and 60 minutes, you know, well, not hour, 2 hours, hour and 60 minutes. I can do math. Anything over that, people aren't going to sit there, but you can tell a story in 10 hours, 20 hours, 30 hours, but you have to have that amount of content. It takes really good writers to have that content.
Yeah, I agree.
Speaking of TV series, James, are we going to start a podcast on the new Game of Thrones?
If we can find the time to record it. I think that's the only thing.
We can find the time.
But I love the show, so I'm always down.
I haven't watched the first episode, so I think, we need to get, think of a name, and we could talk like about that, because Game of Thrones, I always wanted to do one on that. I always want to do one Lost. Now, my real podcast that I want to do on a TV series is my favorite TV series of all time, Psych. It's over with. Have you seen it?
No, I've seen like the handful of episodes.
See, now that is what we need to do. Someone that has seen it like 47 times all the way through versus someone just watching it.
Hey.
We could talk about that show or something like that. So let's think about that. Let's go ahead, because I want to branch out a little bit from gaming because we have other interests in there, but kind of got away from that at the end here. Thank you, everybody, for listening. We're going to have the video here. We're going to break it up into some clips so you can only listen to the parts that you want to listen to about the things that are interesting to you. Please subscribe. Help us out.
We would appreciate it. Thank you very much, guys.
All right. And we are out. Have a good night, evening, day, wherever you're at. Peace.